Doug, one of the factors of the mental toughness concept is challenge, and that splits into two other areas. And the first of those is risk. So, can you explain what you mean by risk?
Okay, so the factor is called risk orientation, and it was first identified by an American researcher called Suzanne Cabassa, who realized that some high-performing individuals didn't just perform because they could roll with the punches and take the knocks. They would also put themselves into situations that other people would assess as risky because they thought they could somehow prosper. So what it's really describing is your mental approach to new experiences, meeting new people, having to do new and different things. And that's pretty much part of our lives these days. Not much stands still, but we don't all see these new opportunities in the same way. So some people will look at what's like coming ahead, like somebody's going to send me to go and work in a foreign country. And their mindset will be, wow, that's exciting. I am really looking forward to that. I really want to do that. And I know it's going to be risky. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but on balance, that's going to be really good for me. And I'm looking forward to it. On the other hand, at the other end of the scale, you get people who say, oh, no, I like being where I am. I like my comfortable position. I like being in complete charge of what I do. I don't really want to start doing new and different things. I don't want these new experiences. I see them as threats, not
Mhm.
as opportunities. And there's a whole scale between the extreme that sees it as a threat, see new opportunities as a threat, and those who think, "Wow, this is brilliant. I'm going to have a really go at it."
Mhm.
Now, again, knowing what I know about you, Penny, this seems to be perhaps one of your hallmarks.
Yeah, and I didn't mean for it to be. Um, so I left home, Doug, when I was 14 years old, and by the very nature of that, you become incredibly independent and resourceful. And I was always on the lookout for things that could make my life easier or better. And so my eyes have always been sort of absolutely wide open for opportunity. And I love trying new things. I love getting out of my comfort zone. I love feeling like I've got to stretch myself. I love those things. I spent my whole life thinking everyone else was like that, and they're not. But I have been self-employed my entire life. That's quite a risky strategy, but that goes back to control. If I'm in control of my business, no one can take it away. If I go and work for somebody, you can't fire me if I'm working for myself. So the risk I've always flipped into a really exciting opportunity. And I totally get that not everything is going to go my way. And I really don't mind that because I'm always going to learn something. But yeah, whether it was driving rally cars, I mean, I've bought houses that were way beyond my financial capability, but it all worked out. Um, I've taken big risks with marrying certain people, and that didn't actually work out, but I learned stuff. All the sports that I have a go at, I'm just learning to be a power lifter at the moment. Um, and there's some physical risk involved in that, except I've got the most amazing trainer who's going to reduce that risk as much as possible. The biggest risk I have is not being able to do what I have sort of set myself out to do. So that's the risk for me, is the not completing the task. But I'm quite diligent and quite persistent, so I'm pretty sure I will do it. I'm going to do a competition at the end of the year just to show myself that I can do it. So, what is your approach to risk in life?
Well, we've spoken about a little bit about this before. My parents were very risk averse, largely because of their experiences and what had happened to them, and they they trod, I suppose, a conventional path, getting a job um, in a large organization and working their way up. However, my father's brother was completely the opposite. He landed here after the war and he got his DMOB money. Three mates got DMOB money, and he persuaded them to pool it and go and buy a bombed house in Kensington in London. And they hotbedded And they lived in a basement and spent the days restoring the house. And eventually they ended up with something extremely valuable, which he then bought the three others out because they wanted their money out. They were happy with that, but which he reproduced several times using the same team of people, and everybody was happy about it. So by the time I was kind of 7, 8 years old, there was quite a difference between my father and his brother. And I was very much aware of that. And my grandfather had ended up here, at quite an advanced age on his own. And he just started his own business, a watchmaker's business in a town just outside Edinburgh. And so I had two role models, and I watched them. And I was definitely, I'm not saying my parents were ever unhappy about the life they had, but I looked at the satisfaction these two people they got, and I wanted their life. I wanted that level of satisfaction. So, but in a sense, I went down a conventional path. I worked for a really, really good company, got to a very high level, fantastic salary. But at the age of 38, I just had to go. It was like there was nothing wrong with my life. I just wanted to get something else, because that something else promised to give me something that I couldn't get. So I literally just stepped off. I didn't get redundancy pay or anything like that. 2 young children, a family, and I just stepped off and went for it. And that was 35 years ago, and I don't regret a moment.
No. It's
The
funny.
downside, though, there are a couple of downsides of doing what we do, and it does sink some people. One is that sometimes you can end up doing things you really shouldn't. I think you've spoken about
Guilty.
marriages and things like that, but we're not going to explore that too much.
No.
And the other is, and I am guilty of this, is this inner side to us can make us constantly look for the next thrill.
Yeah.
I'll call it that. And sometimes I can start something, spot something else, and I forget to finish what I'd started in the first place because I'm after the second thing. Do you ever do that, or
I don't do that too often. I think I don't tend to throw myself into something until I've made that promise to myself, that massive commitment to see it through, because I don't like breaking a promise to myself. So I'm quite good at being selective, I think, about what I choose to pursue. Having promised myself I will complete it. I'm trying to think of something that I haven't. There must be loads of things I've started and not finished, but I can't think of any. I tend to even complete a task I'm not interested in anymore because I can't break that promise. So I will still throw time and energy at something when perhaps I should walk away.
I can appreciate that. I will complete things if I've made a promise to somebody else. I am prone to not finishing things that are only a promise to me.
Oh, you see, the promise to me is more important than the promise to other people. Although I don't really let other people down either. I just that's those. Well, we'll talk about commitment again at another time. But I have quite strong rules in my head about that stuff, and I'm guessing that's all part of my growing up years that sort of created that tram lines that I'm not allowed to cross. Which sometimes I wish weren't there because it does restrict me probably in some ways. But yeah,
having spoken about the risk orientation aspects and how we enjoy that, we mustn't forget that the other is not a bad thing. Bad position to avoid risk and to play it safe is just as important. And if this is not a negative side of this, it's simply another side of this. And what we need is people who are around us who can deal with the mundane or the everyday or the thing that might end up boring people who are sort of more risk orientated. And they're kind of salt of the earth, and they're as valuable as we are.
Yeah. I'm definitely guilty of the thrill thing. Like once I've because I get the thrill from completing something and they're usually quite challenging. I want another one. And I think that's just become a bit of a way of life for me, but it's probably an absolute pain for everyone else around me. But yeah. So listen, we love talking about this stuff. We both speak at events, and of course you have the mental toughness questionnaire at AQR. I know you're very keen for people to investigate and hopefully take the questionnaire to see how their mental toughness is and where they can develop it. So if anybody does want to do that, there's links on the page for people to click.